Lesson 16, the pa'al and ithpa'al. We're talking about the intensive, basically. The pa'al and its passive, the ithpa'al, are sometimes called intensive conjugations. Much better name. Expressing that is a stronger or repeated sense compared with the pa'al. Although, as it will appear, this description turns out to fit these conjugations in Syriac only partially. So what you're going to do, what's going to happen is we're going to take the basic form of the verb that you already learned, and there's going to be some adjustments, mostly of the vowels. When you see those vowel adjustments, it's generally going to indicate, or it's often going to indicate, an intensive or repeated sense of the same verb. So the example I always use is the verb qtal is going to turn into qattal, and it's going to mean, instead of to kill, it's going to mean something like to murder, like a more intensive version of the same verb. Other times, again, I've said this before, it's always worth looking up the verb, because the dictionary is always going to tell you, here's what the regular, sense means, and it's going to have another section in the dictionary. Here is the pa'al meaning, and it might be something not what you're not expecting, and then even the ithpa'al, or even the regular, sort of passive form, it might mean something other than you're expecting, so it's never going to hurt to look it up. Okay, inflection. And the pa'al and ithpa'al, the second letter of the verb stem, is doubled. That's long story short. The second letter of the stem, of the root, is doubled. Qattal. This doubling is not seen or pronounced except when that letter is this, in which case it takes a qushaya. Again, don't worry about that. Or when the third letter is this, in which case it takes a rukakhat. Again, ignore this. This is irrelevant. Okay. In the pa'al, the preformatives and affirmatives are the same as in the pa'al. This is awesome. The conjugation is exactly the same. You have almost nothing new to learn. The vowel a remains on the first radical throughout the conjugation. This is the new thing. All the rest, the endings and the beginnings, are the same. It's just this vowel that's added. The preformatives for the imperfect participles and infinitive have no vowel except for the first singular perfect, by which the rules for alap must have. Okay, the paradigm is as follows. Again, we're starting where it's logical to start. So this is the perfect. So this is past tense, to kill. So I, past tense intensive. I murdered. Qatleth. Qatleth. What is I killed? It's qatleth. So the only difference is this vowel. Qatleth becomes qatleth. Qalt, I killed, or sorry, you killed, becomes qattalt. So the ending is the same, everything else is the same, just you add this vowel, qattalt. So qatleth, qattalt, qattal. So qtal becomes qattal. So you can just sort of hear, it's just sort of an intensive pronunciation of the same verb. Qattaln, or qattalnan, qattaltun, qattal. And so on with the feminine, qatleth, qattalt with the silent yod, qatlath, qattaln, qattaltain, qattal. The imperfect, just as you'd probably guess, the first one, you have to have an extra vowel added to the alap, just so you know it's there. So it's qattal. So instead of iqtal, it's qattal. You will murder is tqattal. Instead of tiqtal or tiqtal, it's tqattal. He will murder, nqattal. Then we, nqattal, tqatlun, nqatlun. Feminine, qattal, tqatlin, tqattal, nqattal, tqatlan, nqatlan. So if you actually did the work and memorized the endings and the beginnings of the perfect and imperfect before, the only thing that's different in any of these is just this vowel, tqattal. The imperative, if you want to command somebody to murder, qattal. And then feminine is pronounced the same. And then the plural is pronounced the same, with these rare exceptions. I'm not even going to worry about pronouncing them. Participles, mqattal. So this meme now, if you want to say, I am murdering, mqattalna, mqattalat, mqattal. مقتلين, and so on. So again, if you learned it before, this present tense. So this is, we used to build the present tense, feminine مقتلة, and then the emphatic مقاتلتا. The passive, okay, this is the only thing that's a little bit tricky, and we did see this in the blue book, but take a look at it. The passive participle. So if you want to say murdering, مقتل, or I am murdering, مقتلنا. If you want to say murdered, or I am murdered, مقتل. This is a little bit tricky. So مقتل is the active, murdering. مقتل is murdered. I am murdered, مقتل. So there's just this one little vowel that's different. This is a language where you do have to pay attention, especially to the vowels, but even, to the letters, but even to these little vowels, and they can make a difference. مقتل. So مقتلنا, I am murdered. مقتلات, you are murdered. مقتل, he is murdered, and so on. The feminine, مقتلة and مقتلة, is exactly the same. So it looks exactly the same whether she is murdering or is murdered. So again, it's just going to be context that's going to tell you which one's happening. But be aware that it can mean that as well. The infinitive, مقتل, to be murdered. If the third radical verb is garl or resh, the e vowel becomes an a. Sharrar, imperfect, nsharrar. Yeah, that's fine. Just this vowel instead. Nomen agentis in the pa'al has the form muqatl. So an acting noun has the form muqatlana. So a murderer is muqatlana. This form occurs as an adjective also. For example, murahman, murahmana, showing mercy, merciful. That's fine. These, if you just learn these as vocab words, that's okay too. For the ithba'al, the parrot. So here's the passive perfect and the passive imperfect. So this means ithqatlith means I was murdered. So ithqatlith, ithqattalt. So what I was killed is ithqtalt, becomes ithqattalt. So again, it's all the same except this vowel is added. Same thing as before. Ithqatlith, I was murdered. Ithqattalt, you were murdered. Ithqattal, he was murdered. Ithqattaln, we. Ithqattaltun, you plural. Ithqattal. Feminine, ithqatlith, ithqattalt, with a silent yod. Ithqatlath, ithqattaln, ithqattaltain, ithqattal. The imperfect, so I will be murdered. Ithqattal, tithqattal, nithqattal, nithqattal, tithqatlun, nithqatlun. Again, all the endings and the beginnings are the same, just this vowel. I'm kind of getting sick of reading all these, but whatever. Feminine, ithqattal, tithqatlin, you feminine will be murdered. Tithqattal, she will be murdered. Nithqattal, tithqatlan, nithqatlan. Imperative, ithqattal, they're all pronounced the same. Participle, mithqattal. So if you want to build a present tense out of this, mithqattalna, I am being murdered. Mithqattal. Mithqattalna, mithqattalat, mithqattal, mithqatlinan, mithqatlitun, mithqatlin. And then the feminine, mithqatla, and so on. And then the infinitive, mithqattalu, to be murdered. Again, Zain, Simkath, Sade, and Sheen switch with the Tau. And as usual, the Sade will take a Taith and the Zain will take a Daleth, just like in the last chapter, just as in the FBO. If you don't remember that, go back and review. I don't want to worry about these softened things. Fifth, qarwath. Okay, don't worry about that. Usage versus verbs in the pa'al can be classified as follows. Okay, a minority actually exhibit the difference set out at the beginning of the lesson, that the pa'al is an intensified pa'al. Qtal is one of these, hence the pa'al. Qattal is more likely to be found when the object there is a large number of people. So maybe qattal, He's saying it's more often when you're killing a lot of people, I guess. Haven't really noticed that. Another, nshak, kiss. Nashik is to cover with kisses. That's cute. So it's an intensive. Just as often a verb is used in both pa'al and pa'al without much difference in meaning. So a lot of times he's right about this. Avar and addar, they both mean to help. They really mean the same thing. Qadh and paqidh, they both mean to command. Zmar and zammar, they both mean to sing. Yeah, that's basically right. So it's just another conjugation that really means the same thing in many cases. It may make the pa'al transitive, as with shtiq, be silent, shattiq, to silence someone. Yeah. Some verbs have a new meaning in the pa'al. For example, qarru, to offer or present. So qra'u means to go near. Qarru is to offer something. A number of verbs occur in the pa'al, but not the. So some verbs only have an intensive form. We saw that in Chaldean as well. Example includes several in the vocabulary on the next page. Shaddar, to send, only occurs in this conjugation, and qabbil. Some of these are denominative form by putting the vowel on a noun. Examples are hayyil, to strengthen, from hayla, and labbu, encourage, from libba, heart. I guess I don't know how you know that. This just means he's claiming that some verbs are denominative, meaning they come from a noun. So he's saying the verb hayyil, to strengthen, comes from the noun hayla. I don't know. Maybe the noun hayla comes from the verb hayyil. I'm not sure how you know that. I'm sure linguists know more than I do, so I'm not going to worry about that. Anyway, the verb qaddim is used in front of another verb without a waw intervening to give the sense of first beforehand, as in qaddim mallil nwiya al hadi. The Prophet spoke beforehand about this. Qaddim. Yeah. So here's the thing. All this page from A to E plus all this, just look them up. If you just look them up in the dictionary, like I tell you, you're gonna see whatever that verb means in that sense. Now, this verb qaddim, you don't have to say qaddim mallil. He preceded, spoke. No, beforehand, the Prophet spoke. So that's just kind of a special use of this verb. Some verbs have an active sense in the ithpa'al. An example is shaw, which has the meaning to think, consider, nearly opposite to this. Ith hashaw, bnoshe, mana, abed. He thought to himself, what shall I do? So shaw, when you make it ith hashaw, it doesn't turn into a passive. It just also has an active meaning. Yet again, just look it up. You will do yourself a favor always. Quadriliteral verbs. Some verb stems have 4 letters. This is new. Usually, everything we've seen so far, the root is a 3-letter root. Some roots have 4 letters. We did see this in Chaldean. These verbs may be denominative, telmid from telmida, or loan words like qatrig, to accuse, from the Greek kategorein. They are conjugated like pa'als, in which instead of a double middle root letter, there are 2 different, that's cute, single letters. That's for 10. So he's just showing you the basic conjugations of 4-letter roots. I don't think they're that hard. Telmid, telmid, telimdeth, telmidht, telmidton. It's all the same endings and beginnings. Telmid, ith, lam, ith, it telmid, telmdun. Telmid. I don't think these are really that big a deal. It's just a matter of vowels moving around a little bit. All the endings and the beginnings are the same. You'll be able to recognize them. Okay, vocab. Qabbil, to receive. Talmid, to evangelize. Gdap, gaddip, to blaspheme. Yaqqar, to honor. Hayyir, to strengthen. Shaddar, to send. Qaru, to offer. Or qarru, to offer. Peshek, to expound or explain or comment on or translate even. Peshek. Qaddim is to do beforehand. Shabbah, to glorify. So all this means they're the pa'al. That's what he's giving you the meaning of. Okay. Mellil, to speak. Hellich, to walk. Hashu, to think, plan, consider. Dina is a noun, judgment. Athra is a place. The plural is athrawatha. It's an irregular masculine plural. Mahdha means at once, immediately. Mahdha. O means or. Labbil, to encourage or to enhearten. I don't know. Haman is to believe. There's a nice four-letter root. Haman. Shattiq, to silence. Adar, to help. Urha, way or road. Urhatha is the plural. Urha is feminine. Rahim is to have mercy. Yamma is sea. Has means far be it. God forbid, something like that. Okay, let me read these and then I'll let you guys do some homework. All right. قدم كثاو الهون أخ دن لبو النون مانا آمرنا دن قبل هراتيقة دأخهانا أو دن أو دن يقر اليولبانة حس مث حشوين واو وأمرين منو هانا دم شتق الروح واليامة شليحة اشتدر دن تلمذون بكل دوك وبكل أثر. These are pretty doable, I think. I don't think they're that hard. رحم علينا دم رحمنا آمر مريم رحمانا سجئين إيلين دهيمن والمعموديثة قبل بيوما هاو كل هنا عمي دعوذت نزغذون لخ مريا وانشبحون لشمخ من دعاوذ زديقوثة من دعاوذ زديقوثة ودينا مقبلوا المريا من دوحثة أبحنان حذا روحا دهيمانوثة إثلا أخ دكثيو دهيم نيث مطل هانا أب مليث مهيم نينا مطل هانا أب ملينا إيثواو تلميذة دم هالخين واو بأرحة ومحذا إيشو عم هونوا ومبشق والهون على نوشة من كل هون كثاوة. Well, I'll do this last one. Ithwao تلميذة, there were disciples, dem halchin wow, that were walking, who were walking, b'orha, on the road. Umahda isha amhonwa, and immediately Jesus was with them. Wam peshek walhon, and he was explaining to them, al noshe, about himself, min kulhon kthawe, from all the scriptures. That's your freebie. Translate these into Syriac. These look fun. And that's it. I think there's what, 2 more lessons, right? 17 and 18. Yep. So we'll do that next time. Good luck.